So now, like I said, we get a chance to talk to, I think, a very special guest. Her name is Coach Pattie Walden. I mean, she is amazing, the things she's doing. She's a writer. This is interesting. She's a voice-over artist. She's a motivational, she's a speaker, professional speaker, motivational and other topics. And she has such a heart for the Lord. And with that, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate that.
Oh, our pleasure. I think it's so interesting the way the Lord has used you to combine this set of skills that you have, but out of all that comes just this goal of lifting up people, helping people to bounce back, helping all of us to focus on how to improve ourselves day to day, serve the Lord, and all that kind of in one concise package. I'd love for you to jump right in and talk about how did you find your way into this space? How did the Lord prepare you for that?
Well, you ask, how did I find my way into it? I think the way found me.
Okay.
You know, it's like sometimes we're placed in certain uncomfortable positions, and out of those levels of discomfort, God can really draw things out of you that you didn't even realize you had in you. And so I think it's coming from a place of flatlining or just being down here. When you start to get back up and breathe again, you realize, oh, I did have breath left in me. I can do this. I can actually bounce back. I've got this. I can get from here to here, and then, you know, just work with where we are here so that we can get to another level.
Yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense because it's very bite-sized. You can see yourself accomplishing that because we're not saying you got to go from here to here.
That's right.
You'll get here.
Right.
But your point is really well taken. It's like, take the first step, be comfortable in that step, and then and the Lord's going to prepare us along the way if we're obedient and putting it in His hands. But at the end of the day, we still got to do something ourselves,
That's
right?
Right. That's right. I mean, it's not that we go from little faith to so great faith. We go from faith to faith, and there's so many different levels of faith. You know, you've got no faith, little faith, faith, great faith, so great faith. And so, yeah, you got to start from wherever you are so that you can see what's next.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. Now, I mentioned at the top of the show that you're an author, and I want to jump in to your new book, The Art of Resilience, Finding Strength to Bounce Back. And I think this is so important right now, especially considering, kind of coming out of this whole pandemic and sometimes you almost need someone to say, okay, we're almost through this, it's time, but I think what you do is you take a very practical approach to say, how do you be resilient? What do you do? What do you do next? And where does that lead you?
Right.
So maybe you could give us a sense. I guess let's talk first, like, in your mind, when we talk about resilience, we talk about bouncing back, and you said something earlier to me that everybody has bounce.
Everybody's got bounce.
So when you think about bounce, resilience, and all, how do you kind of frame that so we all understand precisely kind of where our head should be right now?
I think your head should be wherever it is, because quite frankly, we're troubled on every side, but we don't have to be distressed. I mean, everyone's been cast down, but we're still here, so we're not necessarily destroyed. And so it's just really wherever you are, you've got to realize. And I had also mentioned to you that a lot of times when we think about resilience and bouncing back, we're thinking physically. There are so many people who have mental resilience, spiritual resilience, but we don't think about that. We think, oh, I can't necessarily run that race. But there's so many times the people who some call handicapped, others call handy-capable, can run rings around us because their mental strength is so much more powerful, and it's like sometimes we're down in the dumps because of situations, and you see people who, how can she do that? How can he do that? They weren't born with this, so they don't know that that's even a weakness. So if I'm born this way, hey, I'm going from here to there. And so to me, that's kind of how we have to look at resilience. Wherever you are, you got bounce. And I do put questions at the end of each chapter. Those questions, I think, if we're honest with ourselves and stop and say, hey, okay, let me take this time out to do a journey check. Here's where you are. Ask yourself this question. Answer it honestly before you get to the next. I think those are things that are helpful for our level, helpful and healthful for our levels of resilience. You know, we talk about DIY projects and building homes, especially during this pandemic. It's like, oh, hey, let's put on a deck. I mean, we're home anyway. But, you know, if we can just capture the fact that our temple needs to be built up as well. And so those journey checks are also DIY projects. You know, a lot of times you hear people and they say, hey, I did this and this is how I made it. But I think it is practical because, hey, this is your DIY. You can do this yourself. You can get through fear. You know, we won't cancel out fear.
Right.
You know, I think fear is good sometimes. It's like, it's a motivator, or it can be. You know, I'm going to do this with no matter what level of fear I'm in, but then you get to another level of faith just by going through that fear. And it's like, oh, I like this new place. It gets scary again, but I'm appreciative of the opportunities to stop and just check. A lot of times we just race through life, race through our tests, but we got to slow down and say, okay, where am I? You know, the map in the mall that says you are here. I think that's what this does. It says, hey, we're here now. Take a minute, be really honest with yourself. It's just you. Be honest. If you can be honest, you can get your bounce back, and you get to bounce forward and bounce continually. We don't want you to just bounce in place and stop. It's important that movement is important, but it's also important that we're moving forwardly.
Good point. And I think about this as you're describing, is that there's not a portion of our life that this wouldn't help. It's all aspects of our life.
That's right.
Right? It's our faith, it's our work, it's our interpersonal skill. It's all the pieces of our life. And you're saying, so this is a good way to think of a pragmatic approach to take each of these areas and work on them.
That's right. That's right.
And I love the way you describe that as you're then, because I mean, let's face it, have goals. How do you ever know you hit a goal? Is if you reflect on it. I love the way you've described that here. This is a pragmatic approach, but it's not you do it and you just hope it worked. You do something and then you do a check, as you said, a journey check. How am I doing? What's working? What isn't working? Is that a good way to think about it?
I think that's a great way to think about it, is that we have to actually take part in it and put the work in. It's not that someone is dictating and saying, hey, okay, I'm going to do this for you. No, we've got work to do. You know, a lot of times we want to trust God and we want to look to God for whatever is next for us, but we've got to do something too. You know, I mean, your faith without the work is dead. So to keep your faith alive and to keep your hope alive, you got to put something in it.
Yeah, and you know, from my standpoint, you know, I think we see over and over again that the Lord expects us to do.
Indeed.
So this is just another one of those things that we can grab onto as a tool. You know, this idea of kind of self-evaluation, a pragmatic approach to each of these areas of our lives, with the end result being that we still turn it over to the Lord. We still trust. Every step we take, we still trust that the Lord has us.
That's right.
But we're still taking the step.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. So I guess the other thing that in my mind, when I think about where we are, I mean, this is like a once, hopefully in a lifetime ever situation that everyone's coming through.
Yeah.
I would love for you to kind of give your perspective of, you know, for those of us who are just starting to realize that we could take a step. How do you realize it's okay to take the step right now? And we're going to come back. We're going to take a short break here in a few minutes, and we're going to come back. I'd like you to stay with me.
Okay.
But if you've got a quick thought on that.
How do you take the step? honestly, there's nothing to it but to do it. And I think, again, you have to do it up here first. It's like you've got to talk to you. Sometimes you've got to talk to your hands and feet. You know, people who are in constant or consistent pain, sometimes, you know, my mom will say, all right, feet, we got to do this today. Let's go. You know, so it's about really allowing yourself to move, giving yourself permission, you know, regardless of what's happened to you. I can do this. Because there isn't always someone saying, you can do this. So sometimes when everything shuts down, you've got to be able to say, let's give it a try. We're not asking you to climb a mountain just yet, but just think. Because you think, then you can. At least you're getting in that process. It's not an overnight thing. It's not a very quick thing, but it will happen mentally first.
Oh, very interesting. So it really is kind of you being the director of that. You're saying it's okay. You can tell yourself it's okay.
That's right. That's the DIY. You've got this.
That's interesting. And you can do it.
You can do it.
That's really interesting. I like that. I like it because it tells us that if we don't have that, you could find yourself in a perpetual state of immobility. You could be stuck forever.
That's right. You've got feet, but you're not walking.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make sense, but it's that I'm stuck here. And if I can just tell myself, just get yourself started. So I'm hopeful that this book will allow people to say, okay, I can do this, and see things in a different light. Just maybe change your perspective or give you another perspective where you can go, all right, I never thought of things this way. Let me take another look.
That's good. It's kind of like having a fresh set of lenses in your glasses, and you put them on, and all of a sudden you see things completely different.
That's
and
right.
It's wonderful.
That's right. They're magnified.
So with that, we're jumping right back in to talk to Coach Pattie Walden. We're talking about resilience and improving ourselves, and especially in this day and time. And with that, it is so good that you're here.
Thank you. It's such a blessing to be here.
Oh, it really is for us, I will tell you. So one of the things in your book, we've been talking about Pattie's new book and kind of a framework for resilience. But in here, there are moments of manna. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that and how that is important in the whole scheme of what this book talks about.
Sure. The manna moments are scattered throughout the book. They're in every chapter, and these were just really downloads from God.
Oh, wow.
You know, to help with the climb, to help with the journey. You know, it's like writing, and it's like, oh, that's good. And so they're just separated in the book so that you're not just reading and trying to get here, but you can stop. It's like a filling station, or you know, you're in your 5K race and you're like, oh, they've got water for me here. Oh, I'll have that. And if you really take the time to read them, they're just 1 and 2 sentences, but they will pique something in you, like, I can apply that. To me, it's really important not just that we say, but that we do. And if you can share something with people and have an application. I want people to pick the book up and read it and say, I can apply that when I get to work tomorrow. I can apply that when I get back to school, when I'm taking this test. That works for me. I'm going to do this because it makes sense. So if we can't apply what we're sharing, you know, that's important to me. And I think that the manna moments get you there. They help you to apply the word. And if you just use them and follow them, I think they help and they work. They help with your journey checks. Like, okay, I stopped here to get my water, getting back in the race, and oh, now I've reached another stopping point where I can check myself and say, hey, am I breathing properly? Okay, before I get back in the race. Have I had enough water? Okay, we're good. So between the manna moments and the DIY, the do-it-yourself journey checks, I think you're in good shape to finish the race.
Now that's interesting. You really have thought about this from a user standpoint of, you know, if you're really going to go through this, because some of it's mechanical, mental, and physical, right? It's a process,
That's right?
right?
That's right.
But I love the way you've thought about this in terms of how the user can digest, how the reader can digest this.
Yes. You know, in fact, you just said something that made me remember one of the man moments. And one of those man moments in there is, it's not the climb to the mountain, it's the thought of the climb to the mountain. And so sometimes we talk ourselves out of our own success. Sometimes we talk ourselves out of being spiritually agile. Because we're thinking too hard. You know, it's not, okay, I can do this mountain. It's, oh no, that mountain. You talk and think yourself out of it, and that's not fair to you.
That's right.
It's not fair to ourselves. So I am hopeful that people can go, okay, that makes sense because it is practical. It's not, you know, well, if you know, they're not equations, but they're just very simple. And sometimes we miss the very simple things because we're thinking so far ahead and we want them to be big. But sometimes it's really small.
Yeah.
Those really small things happen to be very, very important.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I think there's also this other piece of, you know, making sure that we don't let the devil push us down and hold us down because he will. Look, anytime we're improving ourselves to do things for the Lord, he's not happy. But we got to bind him in Jesus Christ's name, command him never to return, and then get back to what we're talking about.
That's right, and you can think your way out of it. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he.
Yeah.
I'm strong.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So in the next minute or two that we have, I want to make sure that as people are listening tonight, I could see someone saying, boy, I'd love to get a copy of your book. I'd love to engage with you. How do they get in touch with you?
PattieWalden.com. It's PattieWalden.com.
Awesome.
That'll get you there.
Good. Well, I know you've got a lot of resource, a lot to offer. I want to tell you, it is such a blessing to have you tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm resiliently yours.
Fantastic.